What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for all your support. I'm seeing some big downloads lately, and I can only thank you guys for sharing the show and helping it get bigger and bigger and bigger each week. This week we have our guest. His name is Adam Gumbert. I met this man on the Comedy Button Facebook group, just like I did many of the guests here. So he shares his stories. If you guys want to be on the show, please send me a tweet at GUG Podcast on Twitter. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Google Play. Rate us. Share it with your friends. Let us know what you guys think. And again, I appreciate your guys' support. Without further ado, let's get things started with Adam Gumbert. So, what initially, do you remember how old you were or what initially got you started in gaming?
Let's see. All right, so I was born in 1990, so a little younger, I suppose. But when I was in kindergarten, I got an NES as a gift. So I was like, that was probably like 95. So I think the Super NES was out at that time, but I didn't care. So I had the NES with the light gun and the double cartridge, and I'd never played it. Didn't care. It sat in the room forever. Yeah. As a kid, I didn't care. At that point, I didn't care yet. But I also had a Game Boy at the same time. So I played a lot of Tetris. And what's the Mario game on there? Is it Donkey Kong? Where it's like the old game for like the first 3 levels and it's completely...
They had Super Mario... Super Mario Bros. Was the actual, like, normal Mario that we know today. But then there was Mario Bros., which was basically just like... Or Mario Brothers, which was like the... Are you talking about the old school one where you just run across and jump?
It was on Game Boy, and it started out like the Donkey Kong arcade game. But then you got through 3 levels, and it went to its own Mario game?
Yeah, it's like an older style Mario game. The name is blanking on me now, which I'm sure people are screaming into their speakers like, I know the game you're talking about. Like the old school Mario game. And it's funny because I think Game Boys, I don't know if they came with Tetris or not, but I'm pretty sure everybody I knew that had a Game Boy had Tetris. That was almost like a requirement for everybody who had one.
I didn't even know anything about it, and I had Tetris. I was like, all right. So I had that, and I played those.
It was magic. It just all of a sudden showed up. You're like, oh god, I got Tetris. That's cool.
It was pretty good, and I didn't know how to play, but that was pretty good. But then it was, I think the first game that I really cared about was probably Pokemon Yellow. Like, not even gonna lie. As a kid, 8 years old or 9 years old, that came out, and that's such a good. I go look at it now, and that's such a good like RPG, like a first RPG to ever play. And that was the one where I was like, everyone was into Pokemon. So Yellow was probably the first game that I really like sat down and played a lot of. Even though I owned NESs and I owned everything, I played stuff at friends' house, but that was the first one that I really cared about.
Yeah, I mean, that was basically everybody's like, my first RPG is Pokemon. Because I mean, if essentially it's a turn-based RPG, like there's no ifs, ands about it. You're building characters, you're exploring, you're upgrading, you're leveling up, you're doing all the things you would in a normal RPG. Is just kind of packaged towards kids, which now, I mean, you have grown men like me playing it, my son playing it, so it's cool though, because like you said, that was my first introduction to RPGs as well. Like, I didn't get into Final Fantasy or any of that when it was on NES or Super NES. I wasn't into Chrono Trigger or that type of stuff. I was basically a kid who just kind of played whatever was popular. So, I mean, for me, it was, when I was younger, of course, Mario and stuff, but then RPGs, just weren't part of the picture until Pokemon. And again, Pokemon was a phenomenon, which, I mean, obviously, it goes in and out, I would say. Like, back then, it was basically taking over everything. Like, everybody had everything Pokemon. So, yeah, I remember those times, too. So, those were... Yeah, and also, too, that was one of the first games that I remember bringing people with handhelds together, like making, the whole battle trade and all that stuff. That was awesome.
Link cables and all that? All
link
those
cables.
Ridiculous peripherals?
Yeah, everybody had that link cable, and then, I talked about it in a previous episode, but you had your Frankenstein setup where you had the lights and the speakers and the battery pack and all this crazy stuff.
Those worm lights were trash, but
yeah, they were so bad. It sucks. They were never that good. Did you have any groups of friends that kind of played things with you or encouraged you to play certain things?
Yeah, well, that was the first game that I played, and everyone played Pokemon when we were in school. Like, they eventually banned it from school, of course, but that was in school. And then that eventually led to other stuff. Like, my favorite Zelda games are Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy Color, because that was one that my friends were like, you need to play these. And I played Ages a lot more than I eventually played Seasons. But those are probably my favorite Zelda games, even over Ocarina of Time, just because the amount of time I played them.
Did you ever play Link's Awakening, like the Game Boy version of that? Because that was also really
I did.
Good.
But I think at the time, because this is when Game Boy Color came out, I don't
Right.
think Link's Awakening was in color. So I was like, as a kid, I'm like, I don't care about this. This is gray or whatever.
Right. We remember, like, we were... It's funny because back then as well, graphics and things like stupid things, like on handheld at least, was like color. Like, that was such a big thing. And it's like, you look back and you're like, yeah, man, it wasn't in color. That wasn't a good game. Like, nah, it was fun. It's just we didn't care back then because it wasn't new or fancy or in color or anything like that.
I'm also like a 9-year-old, so I really don't care.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Like 9-year-olds are more focused on what's pretty in front of their face instead of gameplay. So, people will look back and realize, oh, these games are really good. But yeah, I mean, I was too busy playing other games like NBA Jam or Mortal Kombat 3 rather than, other games that are more timeless now. But again, I was just playing what was popular and everything. And, did you, so you played Ages. Did you have a friend that played Seasons to where you guys would like trade off games and everything?
Yeah, my friend had Seasons, and he really liked it a lot, so I eventually borrowed it, and then, I don't know, I might have stole it, because I had both cartridges. I don't remember buying the second one, so maybe he gave it to me and never asked for it back. But I did play both, but I definitely played Ages more in first. And I still think Ages is the better one, even though I haven't played that game in like 15 years, but I remember liking it more. Yeah,
what's funny is that I remember playing Link's Awakening, but then I don't remember playing any other of the Ages or Seasons. I definitely remember not playing those, but then I didn't get back into the handheld Zeldas until DS around, or actually no, I played Minish Cap. That was where I came back to the Zelda handhelds and stuff. But other than that, I didn't really play much else or anything. I played the DS versions, which were okay. But yeah, I remember Minish Cap because I was working at Game Crazy at the time when that came out, and that was really the big buzz and everything. So did you focus more just on the handheld stuff, or did you ever go back to consoles and like start on that?
Well, no, once the Game Boy Advance came out, because I didn't have an Advance, so that's when I stopped, because I just didn't have like the money for it or whatever. Mm-hmm. My first console I ever owned myself was the N64, but I got it like a year after they canceled, like stopped making games for it.
Oh, okay.
But I really wanted it, so I went to Walmart. It was like $100, and I just bought all the games for it, and I just played that forever, even though it was dead at that point. Like GameCube had just came out and all that stuff. So that was the first console I owned, and I played everything on that, and I liked that. But the first console that I had that I really, really got into was the original Xbox. So that's where I played everything. Like, I've owned most of them, and I played at friends' house, but that was the first one that I really had for my own and really, really got into, was the original Xbox.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with like getting a console after its life cycle either, because the cool thing is once you get a console after its life cycle, you don't have that. It's weird because some people feel it's better to get a console right away because you're playing the newest stuff right away. There's no waiting or anything like that. Or there's no. Yeah, you're basically not waiting to play any of the games. You just get them right away. You're playing them as you're new. You can discuss them in public and stuff like that right away. But in some cases, it's almost, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit better in some ways to get a console after its life cycle because you have all these games available that have already released that you can just go and go, I got 10 or 15 awesome games to play right away. Whereas, especially in the older times where it's not as bad these days, but especially when N64, games weren't releasing very often. You know what I mean? Especially when you first got it. You got Mario at first, which was awesome, but then you would wait months for something. And like not even something good, just like something. So the fact that, now games are coming out so frequently that that's not really a problem. Like there's really not a downtime anymore, I would say. Like summer used to be, or actually like right after Christmas used to be a downtime. Now Game of the Year contenders are coming out. Yeah. The only thing that's still kind of droughty is like summertime. But even then, like some games come out like end of May that continue into summer. Just like Witcher came out in May. And, nobody got bored of that during the summer. So now we don't have those kinds of droughts. But yeah, I mean, back then you had droughts. You had times where you just were sitting there. But yeah, there's nothing wrong. Do you remember any specific 64 games or anything like that you were really excited to play when you got it?
Well, like I said, because I played it the entire time because either at a friend's house or for some reason at church. The only reason they could get me into church because they had N64 set up, and I was like, I'll play these before.
That's a good way to get kids into church, right?
Yeah, the only reason. But a lot of Smash. Liked Pod Racer a lot. What's the other Star Wars game? Dark Empire? No.
Shadow of the Empire?
Yeah, that was amazing. I said Smash. Zelda, the Ocarina of Time. Even, it's funny now, because when Majora's Mask came out, nobody liked it, but now everyone's like, Majora's Mask is like the best Zelda game. It's like, no, it's not. No one liked it then. Stop pretending you're being hipsters about it. It was never good.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's different, but I don't like it nearly as much as Ocarina of Time. But
everybody's got their own weird thing about that. Yeah, everybody. I like how nostalgia tends, but also nostalgia plays tricks with your head because you think games were awesome, but then you actually go back and play them, and you're like, this isn't as good as I remember.
Majora's Mask was never. That's just like with Wind Waker. When Wind Waker came out, everyone complained because it looks like a cartoon, and now everyone's like, "Oh, that game's amazing." Because you didn't like it when it came out. Like, stop pretending like you do.
It's funny because, like, you're exactly right, though. Like, there were so many people back then that didn't like it, except for my brother-in-law Nick. I remember it was weird because, again, I was still not as into games as he was. Like, I had actually fallen out of games for a little bit of time, and then I came back to it when I got the job at the game store. But I remember he was one of the only people that, like, really, really liked Wind Waker. And everybody's like, the game looks stupid. Look at the graphics. The graphics look dumb.
Yeah, everyone complained.
And he would tell everybody to shut the hell up, and that game was wonderful. And, you know, to this day, when he says, like, when Wind Waker got re-released for Wii U, he got it, and he's like, this game is still awesome. But, of course, everybody was like, oh, my God, Wind Waker's such a great game. Like, where were you when that game came out talking about how awesome it was? You weren't. You were shitting on it.
Yeah, they were shitting on it, exactly. That's me and Majora's Mask. Because when it re-released on 3DS, everyone's like, oh, yeah, Majora's Mask. Like, no, nobody liked this back then. Like, stop pretending.
Like, but on liking it now?
Yeah, just pretty much all the big, like you said, because, like, the system was dead at that point, so you could go to a used game store or a pawn shop and buy all the good games for like $5 a piece. So I just played all the good ones, but a lot of Smash. Really like Smash. That's one of the only two good fighting games that I'm actually good at.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm right there with you. Like, fighting games with me, my buddy Dito and my brother-in-law Nick, they're into fighting games, but I see certain people play fighting games and they're, you know, doing things like counting frames and doing all, and I'm just like, that's so next level for me, and I can't even comprehend what you guys are doing. But Smash is the one that I feel that, I'm not going to say it's like for noobs or anything, but it's just something that a person can play and feel like they're doing good, even if they're not doing super good. Obviously, there's still high elite Smash players that do next level shit that I look at, I'm like, I don't get what you're doing, but okay, like, that looks really cool and everything. But yeah, Smash is fun. I never actually got into Smash on 64. I actually played Smash Melee on GameCube. That was actually my first Smash Brothers game and everything. Yeah. So I never even went back and tried it or anything like that. So,
well, it's hard after you play Melee, but it was still good when it came out. I don't think I could ever go back and play that game at this point.
Right. Yeah, and again, like, that's what kind of sucks about certain games, because it's like, you had a really good experience with the original Smash. Now, if I go back and play it, all I'm going to do is end up comparing it to, like, Melee or the one on Wii U, or, you know what I mean? I'm just going to go back and compare it, which in some games they can hold up, but some games they just got way better and the old ones just aren't as good. So,
yeah.
That's all right. So then you were talking about original Xbox. So you, like, did you get that? So did you get that console around the time then it was still relevant?
Yeah, I got that one. Well, that console was only out for what, like 4 or 5 years? That was a shorter cycle.
Yeah, like total. It wasn't out for very long at all.
I got that probably a year or two into it. Of course, we did the same thing everyone else did. We would just play tons of Halo multiplayer,
right,
with friends. So I eventually was like, well, I got to get this. And I think I might have got it in the first year because I got it for Christmas. I remember the pack-in game it came with, I think, was like an early Xbox game. So, but yeah, Halo was the whole reason, and that's what got me like hardcore into games. Because, you know, as a kid, I was like, I'd play them once in a while, but ever since, I've like always played them, and that console was the reason. Because I eventually got it for Halo, but then I started playing, like, one of my packing games was like NCAA football and like Top Spin 2 or something like that.
Yes, I'm trying to remember the top. There was a double pack, like, because it came in a case with 2 games. I think, yeah, it was NCAA and Top Spin, I want to say.
I think it was like 2 or 3, something like that. I know Larry Fitzgerald was on the NCAA.
Right.
That's very specific. But I got that, and then I eventually moved to KOTOR. Like the Xbox, the original Xbox had a lot of good stuff, like Mech Assault. That's when online became a thing. So I came in at the perfect opportunity to just like do everything. Like Halo 2 wasn't out at this time; it was still the hype cycle for Halo 2. So
right, yeah, you probably had it then. Yeah, it was. You probably got it around 2003 or no, 2002, 2003. Because yeah, I remember Halo 4 came out 2004. But yeah, like Xbox Live, jeez. That was that changed a bunch of stuff. Like I remember it having, you had to have broadband. You couldn't have no basic ass dial up and everything.
And everyone had AOL and dial up back then, so you had to be special to be able to play online.
Yeah, exactly. So did you ever do? I mean, before the online kind of destroyed this thing, did you ever? I'm assuming you did. System Link, brought your whole Xbox and all that crap to a buddy's house and everything. Just like I mean, that was such a big deal back then because it was just. You had the link cable for Game Boys, but not for full systems. Like there wasn't anything like that. Obviously PC was doing stuff like that a long time ago for LAN parties and stuff. But yeah, I mean that was so innovative to have System Link, and the only thing that sucked back then was there wasn't any like real big flat. There wasn't cool flat screens that weighed 10 pounds. And like you had to lug around those CRTs that weighed 80, 90 pounds that were awful.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But it was that, we'd always go to a friend's house, maybe have two of them, because we'd have like 6 of us or whatever, so it'd be an odd number. But we'd just put 2 Xboxes or just play on one and switch off, and just constantly, that's all we would do all the time.
Did you play in the same room, or did you have it stretch across the house where you were yelling across the house?
Nah, same room. We didn't have that kind of setup.
Jeez. Like my buddy and this is where when I started playing Halo, that was kind of the same thing where I wasn't into gaming as much. I was more into skateboarding and stuff, like didn't really play much, but him and a couple of his buddies, they like knew Halo was going to be awesome way before anybody else I heard talking about it. So day one, they got their Xbox. They went to my friend's house. They did the System Link setup where they were in like separate bedrooms down the hall from each other, but their parents weren't too happy with us when we were screaming at each other across the hallway when their bedroom was in the middle. So that's all right. So then go ahead.
I'll go ahead. No, go ahead.
So you went Xbox and everything. Did you ever go any PlayStation or anything like that? Did you ever eventually get any of those?
Yeah, that was all because in my neighborhood there was. Like my street was like a long street that went around a corner or whatever. So there was like 4 kids on that whole street, 4 or 5, and the other 2 guys had PS2s. So we would do a lot of. That's where we played Grand Theft Auto,
right?
Because it wasn't on Xbox at that time. So we would go there and play that all the time. We'd play like Time Splitters.
Oh, Time Splitters is so fun.
Yeah, I would play the PlayStation. One kid had the PlayStation, one kid had the GameCube. So we had all 3 systems on the same street. So we were all able to play everything that we wanted to. So that was pretty good because I could just walk up the street and like, all right, it's time to look at this Wind Waker game everybody hates or whatever. Or that's where we played Melee because we played a lot because I already liked the original Smash. And so we'd go to the other house and they'd play. I think it was like Vice City and maybe San Andreas eventually at that time. I'm getting all the time frames mixed up. But yeah, I was able to play everything. I just owned the Xbox myself, but we were all always able to play everything, which is nice because I didn't miss anything on that entire console generation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's always nice to have like friends who have the different consoles so that way you can kind of just bounce back and forth of whatever's super popular at the time. If you had Halo and the Xbox, you'd have people go to your house, and then a game would come out on PS2, you'd go to their house and play that. So I mean, that's really cool at least that you were able to experience stuff around the same time and everything. And that's always the best when your buddies have the other system. Plus then especially around that time, like same system co-op, especially on GameCube and Xbox, because of the 4 ports and stuff. Like,
the 4.
It made it so awesome at that time for the couch co-op. Like, I am almost sad that some games don't have that anymore. Also, too, though, the internet has spoiled us to where we don't do that anymore. Now we'd rather just stay at home and just do our own thing. But that was always fun, and like those are times that I remember most is just playing Smash Melee just all night. Just all 4 of us in a room and taking turns, like passing the controller between the buddies in the house and stuff. Like that was always the best.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, any 4-player game, we would always have enough people, so it was always a good time. Or you just have like tournaments or whatever where people switch off whenever they lose.
Right. Yeah, that was always the golden
nice.
rule, right? I think that was a universal rule in the world. It's like if you lose past the controller, like anybody who wins, you guys stick with it and everything. Did you ever have a situation where you had like the one bogus third-party controller that you never played with that you always made one of your buddies play with?
No, I think all 3 except for the main one were bogus ones.
Oh, okay.
But at that time, I think they were halfway decent. Like, they weren't great, but it was original Xbox, so it's like... Yeah, I've never had third-party controllers besides then. But yeah, like, they were fine. I mean, the original... No, because I had an S and I had a Duke, and then the 2 others were the knockoff ones.
Man, that Duke... Good Lord.
That Duke is amazing.
As a child, though, where your hands aren't as big... Well, I mean, you're not really a child. You're a teenager at the time. But still, like, that controller was... huge.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous. It's so big. And remember when the S came out, it was so good. I was like, wow, this is so much better in every way.
It's actually, I just realized it, because the Xbox One S and all, they've been using the S literally since the beginning. I really hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, basically. Well, they got rid of instead of the black and white, they basically just made them bumpers, like L and R, but like, yeah, basically. I mean, I personally, again, everybody's going to have their own preference. I still think the Xbox controller is my personal favorite. That the Elite controller is probably the greatest controller I've ever owned. It is just...
Oh, that $150 controller?
Yep.
I think it's amazing.
It's insane. Like, just, it's such a nice controller. And, I mean, the only thing I will argue with as far as that is the Wavebird. I was
to say, the GameCube controller might be right there.
Right, yeah. GameCube controller was weird. And I mean, the only thing I liked about the GameCube controller the most was that the way that because obviously A button was just gigantic, and then the other buttons were just smaller, but the way that they designed games to function, like where A was prominent, it just worked really well. And then the Wavebird, like, back when Sony and Microsoft weren't even doing their own officially licensed, like made by Microsoft or Sony official wireless controllers, and then when Nintendo came out with the Wavebird, it is still probably one of the best controllers out there. And it was just awesome. And if you had a GameCube, 4 Wavebirds and Smash, I don't think anybody wasn't going to your house every day to play stuff. Like, that was the greatest night ever.
For sure. Yeah, I still to this day I don't like to play. The DualShock 4 is better, but it's still not a good controller for what most games that we play, which are first-person shooters. It's like, that's not a good controller for that, period.
Yeah, I will say, obviously, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, like, DualShock at the time was like, holy shit, this is crazy. There's 2 analogs, not just one. And, it was really cool. I think when 360 came out is when I was like, this is a great controller. The way that the triggers are, especially like you said for shooters, the way the triggers are, the offset analog sticks for me, I feel are a little bit better, but again, it's all personal opinions and stuff like that. But yeah, the DualShock 4, I will say at least it's better. I will say it's the best PlayStation controller that they've made, but still, like, Xbox One controller, even base Xbox One controller, I like better. But again, when Microsoft went with that Elite controller and I got it, I was so happy. Like, it's such a nice controller. And I'm not even one of those, like, oh, I'm a pro gamer, I have to have it. It's just the build quality of it, and it's stupid, but those extra bumpers for certain games are awesome. Like, they're really nice. They're really helpful for certain games. So, So did you continue kind of down the Xbox route then? Like, did you just go Xbox and then go to 360 and everything down the road?
Well, yeah, we got to the 360 generation. Of course, the 360 was a big thing, but I was going to get that regardless. At this point, I've always owned every console. So I had the PS3 and the 360, and my mom had a Wii. I didn't buy a Wii because I'm not an idiot.
Aww.
I mean, there's like 4 good games on it. So
they're definitely
pretty cool.
Yeah. That was where, I mean, GameCube was so awesome, and then when they went to Wii, I made the mistake of buying a Wii first before a 360, and which I have a story of that my friend will never let me down on and still haunts me. But the Wii, again, it's just that hope and that promise that eventually just turned into doing wiggling in front of your TV, like it was really sad. I mean, obviously there was still some good games, like Galaxy 1 and 2, ridiculously good games.
Mario Kart was good.
Mario Kart was really good. I like Twilight Princess, even though some didn't. Like, I thought Twilight Princess was decent. I don't think it was like the greatest Zelda ever, but it wasn't. I mean, for it being a launch game, I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, and then Nintendo kind of went off the rails and was like, everybody likes to exercise, right? No, we sure don't.
My problem with the Wii is that's where they started because the GameCube could probably be your primary console and you'd still get most of what you wanted. Right. The Wii is where it started, where Nintendo is your secondary console, or you're going to miss out on literally everything, which is fine. Right. They still have cool stuff, but again, thank God I own everything else, because I would have been upset if that was my only console.
Yeah, for a while it was my only console, and then I think within a year I bought a 360, and I was way happier as soon as I got that, just because, again, the Wii was cool and it's still, again, kind of, this is how Nintendo has become, like you said, a secondary console, where, it's like, if I would still encourage people to go buy a Switch, because Zelda is ridiculous, and I know there's going to be games down the road, and I'm not saying buy a Switch today, but I'm saying, like, down the road, there will be, like, Mario Odyssey looks awesome, and I'm sure Nintendo's going to go and have those awesome first-party games, but I'd feel real bad if, like, say, the Wii U or the Switch was somebody's only console. Like, that would bum me out, just because, like you said, it's supplementary now. Like, you have to have, in order to at least see the full spectrum of games, you really want to have PS4 or Xbox One and the Switch. Like, you don't want to, if people can say, oh, I only have a PS4, I don't want an Xbox, which both systems have good exclusives. I have a PS4, I have an Xbox One. I primarily game on Xbox, but PS4 exclusives. Horizon is one of the best games I've played in a very long time. So there are good games on all, but so far, my brother-in-law got his Switch, and he played Zelda, and he's like, cool, what else am I going to be playing? And I'm like, probably not much for a while, but, that's how it goes with Nintendo lately.
Yeah, when we get to that console generation, the Wii U is that's a thing for me. But no, 360 was the kind of how I feel about the PS3 and the PS4 is, like, I'm with you. I prefer to game on 360 because that's when a lot of my friends jumped on to online gaming, and that's where all of my friends list is. Like, I've got 50 people on the Xbox and like 4 on PlayStation. So I don't any multi-platform games that have any multiplayer, I'm playing on Xbox just because that's where my friends are.
Of course.
And that's how it'll always be. But like I say, exclusives, like, I bought a PS3 literally like the last year it was around, but then I've got, all the Uncharted's, Last of Us was out at that point, God of War 3.
Right.
Like, that's my thing with PlayStation 3 was that, I played the 10 exclusives that were really good on it, and that was it. But that was cool because those games are really good, so... That's how and it had a Blu-ray player, so that was nice.
That was, that's the smartest thing that Sony did with PS2 and with PS3 is, like, PS2 DVD player, PS3 Blu-ray player. So you could convince the non-hardcore gamer as, like, in their head justifying the purchase of a PS3 or a PS2 because it did this as well. So that was, like, definitely the smartest thing that Sony did in that regard, because you can convince your mom, like, hey, Mom, we should get a PS2 because it's a DVD player. And then she'll like, oh, yeah, we need one of those anyways. But in your head, you're thinking, yeah, now I get to play Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? Like, that was always the smartest thing that Sony did. But, yeah, I mean, I got same room, PS3 and 360 with the online experience. That's what I think, because Microsoft, again, was ahead of it when it came to online. And in my opinion, there's still things that they do better than most people. So, I mean, I just think Microsoft, and that's where 360, when they launched online out of the box and it was baked in and it was part of the console, and that's where all your multiplayer games went. When people played Call of Duty, most people were playing Call of Duty on Xbox. Like, not a lot of people that I personally know were playing on PlayStation, except for my brother-in-law, Nick, who hates Microsoft and hates his Xbox and all that. But that's for our podcast that we'll do later. But no, it's... the Xbox, and that's the only reason why I carried over and I continued, is the online community, which, again, now, back then the community was your neighborhood. Now the community is the world. Like, you can find many people. I haven't really stuck with too many people that I've met randomly on the internet. Mostly it's still my friends, but Xbox online, it's awesome. I don't have any complaints about it.
Yeah, and then, like I said, that's the Gears of War series was out on that, and then we had, of course, the Halo. Actually, the real reason I wanted to get a 360 because I needed to play Halo 3.
Yeah, Halo. Like,
3 I wasn't moving on until the game came out. Yeah,
Halo 3 was great. I remember the only thing that made me really, like, of course, like, the Halo games and stuff were out, but I remember when, because I'm really big into skateboarding, was when the first Skate game came out.
Yeah.
I remember in my head thinking, I have to have a 360 before Skate comes out, because seeing all the footage of it, and not to mention the Tony Hawk games were getting like worse and worse and worse and worse. I remember just seeing ads for Skate, and I was like, this is what I want. This is always what I've wanted for a skateboarding game. So I remember that was kind of the big factor of like, and I think Skate and Halo 3 came out around the same time, like that year, that like fall or whatever. So I remember having to get my Xbox before all that stuff came out and everything. And of course, Gears of War, like I'm really big into Gears and Halo. But yeah, Gears was also, that was like the first, in my opinion, the first next gen game that made people freak out. Like graphically, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was that first one was definitely it. And then for me later on, like that generation lasted so long, so there's a lot of stuff mixed in here. But
years.
Like I used to play PC back in the day, like early 2000s or whatever. So when Battlefield 3 comes out on 360, and I prefer Battlefield over Call of Duty. Call of Duty's good. People who hate on Call of Duty, it's a good game. There's a reason it's the best selling game of the year.
Right.
Like it plays well. But Battlefield is more, I like the squad thing, I like the big maps, I like the vehicles, I like that. And I just couldn't trust PlayStation with their online, because even though it wasn't paid for, I mean, you could tell it wasn't paid for, because I think PlayStation 3 online was trash, and I don't think I'm wrong.
No, I would find it very hard for somebody to argue that PlayStation 3's online service was really good.
Yeah, so I had Xbox Live, and then I probably put about, I think last time I checked the in-game timer on Battlefield 3 for Xbox 360 was like 6 weeks worth of like in-game time or something like that. Like that game was that's all we played. It was amazing. So that was awesome to have. And then there's just like, because we have Xbox Ones now, and they make stuff backwards compatible all the time, and I'm just like, good lord, there's so many good games on that system that I like either forgot about or didn't finish or just play again. So yeah, that's where Assassin's Creed started, which I really, for some reason, I really like. I've literally played and beaten in like 100% at every Assassin's Creed game. I don't even consider myself an Assassin's Creed fan, but I've done it for every game, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just do it anyways.
Is it just the gameplay loop that just like, it's just fun to do? Because I mean, there are games like that where you get to a certain loop, like gameplay loop, that's just good, even though other things about the game might not be as good, like story or whatever. But certain gameplay loops will always bring you back and everything. Did you even 100% Assassin's Creed 1?
No, 1 is the only one that I haven't. I've done it for every one of the other ones, but I finished 1. At that point, I didn't care about 100%, because I think it was working at GameStop at that point, so I just could check out games and get whatever I wanted. People who don't work at GameStop, you can just take games and play them if you want to.
Right, basically, you had like to check out. When I worked at Game Crazy, which was inside of the Hollywood Videos, that's where I used to work. We kind of had a Hollywood Video right there where we could just rent stuff, and then we always got stuff. They always get stuff a week early, so we would be able to rent stuff a week early. Like, so I was always like inviting people over my house, like, "Hey, you want to play this game now? I just got it a week early." But back then it wasn't a big deal. Now, like, certain games you can't even play a week early because servers aren't live and you can't do anything like that. So now that kind of trend is kind of gone. But yeah, I mean the checking out games, that is the benefit of working at a game store. Also, is just the amount of games that you were able to see and play and experience is just considerably better and everything. I didn't work it during the 360 era, but I was more, when I was working it was PS2, GameCube, Xbox era. But yeah, that was always a fun time. You couldn't complain about that.
And especially the thing that I'm thinking about it now that I definitely wanted to bring up was that BioWare, we said that before, I loved KOTOR, but BioWare because the first Mass Effect was exclusive for like 10 years or whatever it was, but BioWare games on 360, Jesus, like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Jade Empire was original Xbox, but all of their games were so good. I played so much I've played the Mass Effect trilogy tons. I've loved Dragon Age 1. Didn't even beat 2, but I like 1 and I like Inquisition. So BioWare was what's up, and they came first to Xbox. So I was like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that a lot of people love Mass Effect and all these Dragon Age games and everything, but people forget that they initially bought Jade Empire, KOTOR, like all those games on Xbox, and like they weren't even available on PlayStation or anything. So that was a big thing. But I mean, everybody finally. Like, I think it was sad because, like I said, a lot of PS2 people didn't realize how good those games were, how awesome they were, until all of a sudden Mass Effect, which, like you even said, Mass Effect 1 was exclusive on Xbox. It was weird that, like, 1 was exclusive but then 2 came out on PlayStation. Like, it was kind of weird how that happened, but I mean, it's happened again. Like, same thing. Like, Dead Rising was the same way. Like, Dead Rising 1 didn't come out on PlayStation 3, but then Dead Rising 2 did. So it's kind of weird how that stuff happens. But yeah, BioWare definitely made a lot of people open their eyes and everything to their company and their games, and those games still hold up for most people out there. Like, most people can still say, go play KOTOR, it's awesome, and most people will still play it and still feel it's that way.
Yeah, KOTOR, you could literally play it on your iPhone or an iPad, like, or Android. Like, it's literally on everything, and I'd say play it. Like, the controls aren't, it's a real-time turn, whatever that's called. Like, you just click it and it does it in real time.
Yeah, it's kind of, that was the weird, because it was mixed between, like, real-time but turn-based-ish. Like, it was kind of a weird, it was just a different combat system, but again, a lot of people really enjoyed it and everything.
I say, you can play it on your phone, play it. Like, it costs like $5. If you haven't played it, you definitely should.
It's crazy now, because think about that, dude. We have phones and iPads that can play PS2 games pretty good. Like, that, nobody should complain about that. Like, it's funny. The only thing I will say I complain about is I prefer physical buttons. Like, the touch, like, analogs and, like, hitting the button. It's just there's something about, like, I just don't feel I'm controlling it right. I mean, obviously, like, the touchscreens, I'm not saying touchscreens are bad on any of these devices. It's just odd that you're not touching physical buttons to move or actions. Like, I just don't feel, is my finger moving a little bit too far to the left where I'm not hitting a button? You know, it gets kind of weird, but that's the only thing I don't like about playing it on the phones and stuff. But again, the games run well. Like, I don't think I've heard anybody complain about KOTOR on, like, iPads and stuff. Like,
no,
that's perfect. Like, you can just take
the only games that I play on there are it's KOTOR. XCOM is really good because it's a turn, you know, it's just a click and move your person or whatever. And then what's the other one? Banner Saga. Those are the 3 that I'll play on an iPad. Otherwise, I'll play it on a controller. But yeah, those 3 I can do. I
would say the Telltale games, except for they barely run on a PS4, so it's sad. But I mean, like I said, those are other games too that there's no excuse to run bad on a PS4. But I get if an iPad can't run it as well. But yeah, the Telltale games are available on everything as well, so I'm surprised that
probably play on your refrigerator. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, exactly. It'll play on your Samsung Wi-Fi fridge. You can just download, you know, Walking Dead season 1 and cry in front of your fridge while you get something to eat. You can just do that.
Yeah, but that was probably the. I mean, if you're looking at it now, that might be one of the best generations of consoles. Just where all the exclusive stuff between the 2 consoles, it lasted so long. There was a lot of, like, at the end, like, to think that. Looking at it now, Grand Theft Auto 5 ran on those machines. Yeah. And then they remastered it. It's like, how did this game work on a PS3 and a 360 in the first place?
It's very hard to believe that. Yeah, because now you look at it and you're like, wow, this game looks awesome. But also, too, go back and play it on 360 and PS3. It doesn't look that good. Like, it was
No, it doesn't look as good, but the whole world is still there.
Oh, the whole world's still there. Yeah,
there,
absolutely.
Which is ridiculous, but...
Yeah, well, like, I mean, that's what you get when you have 8 years to figure out a console and squeeze every bit of life out of it. I'm sure, like, I'd be scared to see what a launch 360 sounds like trying to play the Grand Theft Auto 5 on that. Like, it would probably sound... Yeah, it just sounds like a jet engine. It sounds like it's going to just blow up and everything. So, what have you been playing lately? Like, what do you play today? I heard you were doing streaming and stuff like that. So, what have you